Hello and welcome to another edition of Storytelling on Orchard Street. We're in the podcast studios of P&T Knitwear Bookstore on 180 Orchard Street. It's a great cafe and bookstore. They have a great selection of books and they have events, so come check us out. With me in the studio today is Nicca Ray. She is the author of the poetry collections Curve on Gutter Snob Books and Backseat Baby on Poison Fang Books, and the memoir Ray by Ray, a daughter's take on the legend of Nicca Ray, 3 Rooms Press. She has 2 books coming out in 2024, a poetry collection, Go Go Girl from Poison Fang Books, and a memoir, Love and Cigarettes, a mother's daughter's story from Punk Hostage Press. Her poetry has recently appeared in Glue Gun number 4, Maintenant number 15, 16, and 17 on 3 Rooms Press. A shape produced by Curve and paper teller Diorama. Great weather for media. Love magazine issues 4 and 5 and 6. The anthology New York City from the Inside on Artedolia, Moon and Sun issue number 10 and 11, and poetrybay January 2022. She is a 2020 Acker Award recipient for memoir and a Pushcart Prize nominee. And welcome to the studio, Nicca. Hi.
Hi, it's so nice to be here.
Yeah, you have a lot of achievement, right?
I've been busy.
Yes. So if you've been able to listen to any of the podcasts I've done, I usually like to, we'll get into all this that you've done because you've been very successful in your art. But I like to get to know the person that's here and what made them the artist they are. So where they're from, what's things in early life that might have influenced you and made you the poet that you are. So we're going to start with, it's obvious because it's in your bio, but your father was Nicca Ray, and if anybody doesn't know who that is, he developed the classic, legendary movie Rebel Without a Cause.
Right.
And if you haven't seen that, you have to see it. Starring James Dean. It's just one of the most important movies of the 50s, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
1955.
Yeah, it was the first time that...
It's right up there with On the Waterfront.
Right. No,
like
it was the first time when in a movie they showed teenagers having their own identity separate from the adult.
Right.
And it was like the first time the generation gap was talked about on film.
Yeah, so that's a big deal, and you wrote a book about your father. So we'll definitely, and you have that right there, right? You can hold that up to, yeah, let's hold it up.
Do I hold it up over this
there
way?
we go.
Ray by Ray.
When did that came out?
2020.
Yeah, okay.
Right when the pandemic hit. It's on 3 Rooms Press.
What led you to write a book about your dad?
Well, I didn't grow up with him. I didn't see him from the time I was 2 until I was 13. And then he passed away when I was 17.
Wow, sorry.
So I had a lot of questions, a lot of questions about who this man was.
Right.
And I'm named after him.
Right, I see that.
So
I was going to ask you if your name, your first name is as is, or it was, a nickname or takeoff on your father's name.
Take off on my dad's name. I was supposed to be a boy, so they were going to name me Nicholas.
I see. Right.
Turned out a girl.
What do you mean you were supposed to be a boy?
Well, they thought that I was going to be a boy.
Oh, okay.
The doctors.
Oh, they made a mistake?
Before they had the tests that they could determine what gender your child was. Oh. I guess they would have those wives' tales. I was born a while ago.
Right, but I mean, when did I didn't realize, I never thought about that. They didn't have a test until when?
I don't know when that happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know when. So I had all these questions. So I was in my last year of school at the new school, and I realized that I was like so many other children who grew up without their father, that it's kind of an epidemic that fathers are MIA in a family. Right. And I said to myself, but I'm lucky because my father left behind a legacy, and I'm going to go find out about him.
So say it again. How much time did you have with him?
Not that much.
Yeah, like a few years.
Not even.
No.
My parents separated when I was 2.5.
Right.
and I didn't see him again until I was 13.
Wow.
And then I saw him maybe 6 times before he died.
And what's the reason why you didn't see him? Do you know?
Well, you can always read my book,
I
Ray
will.
by Ray.
Yes.
Everybody can.
Yes.
But a little snapshot. We lived in Europe, and he stayed in Europe, and he was trying to get films made,
Right.
but he had a drug and alcohol problem.
I see.
And he was
Right.
so he was kind of hitting the skids. He'd been kicked out of Hollywood, and his last movie, 55 Days at Peking, he got kicked off the set.
Wow.
And so he spent about 5 years wandering around Europe and doing like saying that he was involved in these projects, and he would get people to give him money, and he was just kind of a man about town.
Right.
And he was revered in Europe.
Right.
And he soaked it up and took it for all it was worth.
He was revered because of
His movies,
Right.
of In a Lonely Place, and Johnny Guitar and Rebel, of course,
Right.
and yeah.
What's it like for you to see his movies? Like, is it different than it would be for anybody else who wasn't in a relation?
Well, I think that when I was younger, I would look at his movies and see if I could get to know him through his
Right.
movies. So I think that that's different.
Sure.
Because I wanted to know what my parent was like, and
Right.
I wanted to see if his movies were telling me what he was like. And he was labeled an auteur by the Cahiers du Cinéma
Okay.
writers, and so they always talk about how auteur filmmakers put themselves in the films. So I was always looking,
Right.
but then after I found out about him, and I did extensive research for Ray by Ray, and so watching his films changed. I changed from being that girl who didn't know her father who was looking for him in those films to the person who could watch his films and just be blown away by them. I mean, I'm so proud of my father and his artistic legacy. He was a genius.
And what was your relationship like with your mother?
Hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a
Hard
really,
because of her heartbreak or your heartbreak or both?
We just didn't get along.
Was that-
Probably because I'm a lot like her, I think. But I also just really wanted to be with my dad, and I was mad at her
Right.
for in my youthful
Sure.
opinion.
You took it out on her that
I
he wasn't
did.
there.
I did. Yeah. So we had a hard relationship, but became very close towards the end of her life.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and I took care of her as she
Right.
was.
And where was that?
She moved to Arizona. She
see.
lived in Los Angeles forever, and
Right.
then moved to Arizona.
So you said you were in Europe for how, like, when did you come back to this country?
Well, my parents moved to Europe in 1957.
Okay.
And then when my mom left my dad in 1964, so I was 2.5, we were living in Madrid.
Okay.
I was born in Rome.
Oh.
And then, so we came.
So you're born in Europe.
I was born in Europe, but not a European citizen, not
Right.
unfortunately. But, yeah, so what was the question?
So when, you were born and you lived in Europe for a while. When did you come to this country and where?
Oh, I was 2.5, and my mom brought us to Los Angeles. We lived in Malibu.
Okay.
And then we moved various places.
Right.
And then eventually I pretty much grew up in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles. So Silver Lake, Echo Park, Los Feliz. Yeah.
And were you into the arts as a child?
Yeah, I was writing when I was a kid. I all the kids were playing, and I was in my room writing, and my mom never had time to listen to me or my stories.
Right.
So I had this 5th grade teacher, and I would bring him the stories, and he would read them to the class.
Wow.
And I would go and hide in the bathroom. But yeah.
Right. So you had a feeling for it very young.
Yeah, it's what I did.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's something you did throughout your life?
Well, I sort of got into some trouble with drugs. So there was a period of time where I had no focus or concentration, and I didn't regain that. I'm sober, and I didn't regain that till I was about 8 years sober. And when I did, and I started to be able to write again, I felt like I had come home.
Right.
And then I went to college. I went to college late.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And what'd you go to college for?
Writing.
Okay.
Writing and film. Yeah.
Nice. Have you done anything in film?
I just made a couple of shorts when I was in school. I made a music video of a band called Emma Peel.
Oh.
They used to play around the Lower East Side.
Yeah,
and
that sounds
stuff.
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the garden on 6th and B.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I shot in there
Nice.
on Super 8.
It's a great garden.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shot there, and then I shot in their studio, and then I made my student film, 16 millimeter student film, and that played in like the New York Underground Film Festival and Bumbershoot. But film wasn't something like, if I could afford to make my own little films, I would love to do it,
right.
But I'm not interested in going and making movies.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just interested in the art of it, not the Hollywood thing.
No, I don't. Hollywood. No, Hollywood's not for me.
Right. So we have a lot to talk about, but I also want to make sure that we get at least a few of your poems read in the show.
Okay.
So you want to read something? We can go back to chatting.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll read a poem from my first collection, Backseat Baby.
Nice.
Here's one that's not all back.
Yeah, let me see. I'll hold it up.
Hold it up.
Yeah.
And that is put out by Poison Fang Books. It's the musician Chris D's imprint. He's in this band, the Flesh Eaters, and the Divine Horsemen. And so he has an
It's got a real rock and roll look to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like an old, very movie-like. Actually.
Yeah, he loves those movies.
Old rock and roll movie.
Yeah, yeah. And Jesse, my partner, did the illustrations. So I'm going to read Flight.
Okay.
If I could part ways with my flesh, would I be free of those memories that trick me into hating my body? If I were weightless, could I lift off pavement, be a rocket to the moon? If I was a spacesuit, could I float away, be a balloon escaping into the sky, no one able to reach my string? If I could reassemble myself, attach my left leg where my right arm ought to be, would I land inside a Picasso? If I were hanging off a screw drilled into a pristine gallery wall, would I take comfort in being stared at? If you hadn't have touched me, would I have lived my life thinking every stranger saw the dirt on my face? If I had been alive in 1938, would I have been cast in Angels with Dirty Faces? If I was a Fragonard cherub, would joy be my bounty? If I was joyful, would his trespasses leave my thoughts alone?
That's great. I love it.
Thank you.
So when did you come to New York City?
I moved to New York City. Well, I moved here the first time in 1981, and I lived here for 9 months, and then I went back to LA, and I moved back here permanently in 1987.
What was your reason for coming in the first time?
Well, I had come here for my father's memorial in 1979.
Okay.
His memorial was at Lincoln Center, and he had lived with his last wife in a loft on Spring Street in West Broadway.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with New York City. I fell in love with the grit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was very gritty back then.
It was really gritty. It was
it's so
pretty
different.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is later in life, obviously. What were you doing in between that? College. Well, you went to. What were you doing in your life, like besides art? Anything like? Did you have a career outside of writing, or?
No, I always worked in restaurants because I just couldn't work in. I could never figure out like the career thing,
Right.
and I just
You weren't a 9 to 5 kind of person.
No, I couldn't do the desk. I can't. Xerox machines scare me. Do you know? Like
right. That's funny.
Like I'm not very equipped in that area.
I get it.
So so I always like.
It's not an unusual career for somebody in the arts, actually.
Yeah.
And So I saw you perform with Barry Reynolds.
Yeah.
Great guitarist. If you guys don't know who he is, he was on the classic, like the legendary Marianne Faithfull album, Broken English.
Yeah.
And he was on a bunch of her albums. I also have that on vinyl, and I also have his solo. I think he only did one solo album. Is that true?
I'm not really sure.
But he has an album called "I Scare Myself." Do you know it?
I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
I should.
He does a great. That's a Dan Hicks song, and he does a great version of it. I really like it. I was able to tell him that when I saw you guys.
Oh, cool.
So, is that a new thing, doing the poetry and the music, or is that something that's new for you?
No, that was totally new, and that was something that
you mean
Barry.
that night was new?
No, but the doing music, and that was just Barry.
Mm-hmm.
Barry instigated it. He was doing a residency at a gallery. What's the name of the gallery over here? Is it Keith Smith Gallery?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Anyway, he was doing a residency at this gallery, and he asked if me and my partner Jesse would like to come. And Jesse is an artist, so he
I see the graphics in the book. It's great. Yeah.
Thank you. Jesse draw, while Barry and another musician played while I did my poetry.
Right.
And that was the first time that we ever did it, and I really loved it doing that, and Barry really enjoyed it. And so Barry said, let's do it some more. And so I had several readings going on.
Right.
In which he just played along, and it was. It's something that I really love doing. Yeah,
I enjoy doing it too. The theme song is by Fred Argenziano, and we've been friends since the '70s. But we were both drummers, so we never really had a chance to work together.
Oh wow!
But now he's more into playing the guitar, and I'm not playing drums that much, and I'm doing the poetry, and we just started doing this together. And as somebody who just loves being on stage. And creating, it's a lot of fun to do it with the music. It changes the words a little bit.
It changes
and the feeling.
It changes it. It brings it to a different depth. Yeah, and you can play with the sounds of the words more because.
Did you ever were you ever in a band?
No, and when I was a little girl, I wanted to be the singer in an all-boy band, but I discovered I don't have a singing voice.
Why an
I don't
all-boy?
know. Don't ask me. I was like 9 years old.
Well, I'm like probably a million other people. I wanted to be a Beatle.
Yeah. No, I was like really into like.
Do you remember that when they were first on TV?
No, I don't. No, I think I was a little young.
Okay.
For that, but yeah, no, I was really into.
That's right. You mentioned. So I guess you were born in the '60s.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I was born in '57.
Oh,
so
okay.
I remember it
Just
like
a few years.
Yeah. I can clearly remember it.
Wow.
I remember my sister was a teenager. I was 7, and she just went nuts.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal. But no. And then I had a lot of friends who were in bands and stuff, but I never really had the patience to like learn and play like bass
or
just
any instrument,
like any instrument to.
Well, it takes a lot of dedication, actually.
Yeah, and also you have to hear yourself sounding bad.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah, in the beginning for sure.
Yeah.
So I tried guitar, briefly tried piano. But the drums came kind of naturally to me, and as a drummer, it's funny to say this, but it's a little easier to start off, I think. Well, if you have a natural feel for it.
Yeah.
On the drums.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially rock and roll. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was always around.
But you're always around music. I was going to say.
I was always
I would've
around
guessed
music.
that.
I started going to clubs when I was like 15.
Oh, okay.
And I was always around music.
Right.
I love music.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what's the inspiration for your poetry? Is there, I'm sure there's multiple things, but like, can you...
Well, I kind of think of, these days I was thinking of my poetry as like these little memoirs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I write poetic memoir, you know?
Right.
And so I think that I'm inspired a lot by, you know, things that happen to me. There's things that I feel I need to express.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the poetic form. I love the ambiguity that can exist in a poem. And I have a lot of fun with that.
Right.
After writing Ray by Ray, which it was factual.
It's
and
such a different thing.
It's a different animal.
Is that the first prose for you?
Yeah. So.
And how did you prepare for that?
How did I prepare for that?
Yeah.
Well, I started it in my last semester of college, and I
so you
had
got a little
an
guidance.
independent study
Right.
with Robert Polito, and I walked into his office. He was I think he was like the director of the creative writing program there. And I walked into his office, and I had all my journals, and I was like, "This is what I want to do. Where do I start?"
Journals, they were like things
I
that
keep
throughout
journals
throughout your life.
Yes.
Or, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Even when you were a kid.
Since I was 15.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
I have
amazing.
all of them.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted to at first I wanted to piece together where I was and where my father was. I wanted to find out where he was when I was growing up.
Right.
And so I had all these journals. I'm like, where do I start? And so he said, just start writing stories.
Right.
You know. So so that book took most of my adult life to research and write.
I bet that can't be an easy thing to do.
It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't, and it was life-changing, and I'm really glad I did it.
Do you see yourself writing more prose, or you just poetry? Is it for you?
No, actually, I have a memoir coming out.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
Yeah, I have a memoir coming out in 2024 called Love and Cigarettes, a mother-daughter story, and that's coming out on Punk Hostage Press. And then after that,
elaborate on that, the subject matter.
It's the story of it's about my relationship with my mother, who from the time I was 20 up until the time she died, I was her caretaker.
Right.
The last 2 months of her life, she died of throat cancer.
Wow.
And so it's about our relationship and how I ended up being the daughter that took care of her, and how profound an experience that was. And so that was a
That's a hard thing to do. And was your relationship fairly repaired before you had to be a caretaker, or?
Yeah, it was. We had worked on.
Because I would imagine it would be harder if that's not the case.
No, we had worked on it, and it just seemed like when the time came that there was no doubt in my mind that I needed to stay in Arizona and take care of her, and that it was actually, she was giving me a gift to trust me enough to make sure her final days were the best that they could be.
Wow.
And
that's profound.
It was pretty great. So, Does
that show up in your poetry?
Not so much right now. Not in these books. In some of my later poems, the more recent poems. Right. And then I have a book coming out on Punk Hostage Press called Where the Girls Go When the Sun is Too Bright, a punk rock odyssey, and that's about punk rock in LA in the late 70s, early 80s, cool. and it's my story, but it's also the story of all of my crew. Like
Right.
everyone hung out.
It was a
like
big
I'm
scene,
interviewing.
and a big
It was
punk scene,
very-
Orange County, and
the LA, the Hollywood punk rock,
sure.
and then Orange
Right.
County
Yeah,
came in,
right.
and so I'm interviewing the people who I hung out with, but also
you're doing that now.
yeah, I'm working on that now.
Did you have trouble tracking people down?
No, I'm not having trouble tracking people down. And like I'm friends with them on Facebook,
Right.
and then they'll say,
See, there
no,
is
no, you
there
have
is some
to-
good to Facebook, isn't
There
there?
is some good. There really is good.
I know
to
that
it.
kind of stuff is really
It's
great.
really good, and
Yeah.
so and just some some musicians and stuff like that too.
Right.
But like Iris Berry, who runs whose press is Punk Hostage Press,
Mm-hmm.
she was like, why don't you write about your punk rock days? And I'm like, but I wasn't in a band. And she
Doesn't
said, well,
matter if
that's
you were around
that's
it.
yeah.
Right.
She says that's even better.
Were you
And
writing a lot back then, or no?
I was really on so many drugs.
Oh, okay.
I wrote
Right.
in my journal, but I couldn't focus.
Right.
And yeah,
It never came up. Nobody ever asked you to write lyrics for a song or anything. Did you ever try to do that, or no?
recently.
Okay, but not back then.
Not
Yeah.
back then. No,
Right.
I was just too. I mean, I like, I just went out with bass players. You know what I mean?
Why bass players?
I like bass. I like bass
I like the-
players.
okay.
I don't know why. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's the root of the music, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I
It's
like
the foundation.
it. Yeah.
So we're pretty far into the show. Let's make sure we get more poetry in.
Okay.
So how about you read something else?
All right. So I'm going to read.
And what's the name of this book?
I am going to read from Curve.
Okay.
Curve is my latest book. It's on Gutter Snob Books. The cover is by the artist Elizabeth Crush.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'm going to read Breathe.
Is this a
Portrait.
It's a
of
portrait.
me.
That's great.
Yeah, she's pretty talented. So Breathe. Just please throw down your foot on that pedal. I'm too drunk to make a sound in the backseat of the curves this car of yours takes so carelessly. Breathe. This roller coaster ride of heartbreak beating me down, a stomach in my throat over and over so relentlessly. Breathe. 110 miles per hour on the 101 to mayhem, your leg out the window, your hand on the wheel so brazenly. Breathe. My chest is breaking, my heart leaps out, running to danger. Danger is running so tirelessly. Breathe. Out of breath, I have no feet. There is no pedal for me to break, no bottle for me to suck air, no you to hold so rapturously. Breathe.
Yes, breathe. I feel like a lot of your writing has like it's really like movies, and it's like punk movies or
Nice.
you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
like-
you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's well, not just punk, but it's got a vibrancy to it. You know. It's,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Yeah.
What would you like to see next? I mean, you have a lot of things coming, but like, you know, do you see any other artistic movement besides the poetry and prose, or?
Well, I poetry and prose was my main thing, you know, and I don't really see myself being able to live without it.
Right.
You know, I am in the process of writing a play,
Wow.
and
What's it
and-
going to be about?
I'm not going to say
Okay.
because it's still at that. You'll have to bring me on again when the when the play is almost done.
How far along are you into it?
Quite a ways. There's getting some people involved and stuff like that. So yeah, but I just don't want to bring it up.
Have
yet
you ever
'cause
attempted that before?
Yeah, I had a play done in the early 90s.
Right. See, I'm not surprised because from what I hear, and from what you've done, it seems like it lends itself to visual.
Yeah, I'm pretty visual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I also I make these assemblages which like started out I make bookmarks
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so I do that. I call it my institutional art.
Okay.
But yeah, I make these little bookmarks.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'll show them to you.
Okay.
Sometime, yeah. But what do I see for myself?
Well, that's a big thing. I mean, you have a lot coming out. and
And just to, I feel like this is the time of my life. I feel like I needed to get Ray by Ray written and done, and live through that in order to be where I am now. And I'm writing all the time.
Right.
I don't sleep a lot.
I was gonna say, how do you do all this? Are you doing anything else like?
I work full time. I'm a full time restaurant manager, 50 hours a week.
Jeez, restaurant manager that's a really hard work.
Yeah.
So I was a chef for a bit.
Oh my God! So
yeah,
you know,
it's really hard work. It's hard to do creative stuff after that.
Well, you have to if you're a creative person,
True.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you figure it out.
Well, I became a chef later in life, and it was really hard on me physically. So I was like 45.
Oh, okay.
And my son was born 3 months after I graduated from culinary school.
Oh, wow.
And I was a stay-at-home parent for a little bit, and I started a business, and I didn't have energy for anything else between those two things.
Right. Yeah.
I was in a band a couple times during that period. Maybe writing, because the drums are really physical. So
yeah. Right.
I didn't really have the energy for that. Too
I
much.
knew you had a kid too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't have children.
Right.
So, and I'm
What restaurant?
EJ's Luncheonette
Where's that?
on 73rd and 3rd. It's really good.
Oh, okay.
It's really good.
All right. I said it again?
EJ's Luncheonette.
EJ, yeah.
They'll be so happy I plugged it.
Is it an old-fashioned luncheonette?
It's modeled on a 50s diner.
Oh, so it looks like that?
Yeah.
And the
Menu's comfort food, and
Right.
it's really, really good.
All right, I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah, it's really good. Come say hi.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Does it have the counter with the?
That has the counter
and booths and all that.
booths. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And
has it been around a while, or is
it's been there in the neighborhood for 32 years.
Holy cow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's a neighborhood staple.
Wow. How long have you been working there?
7 years.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I'm impressed you do that and all this too.
Yeah, I'm kind of really happy right now.
You should do a reading at the luncheonette.
Oh yeah.
Combine your two worlds.
No.
Do you do readings a lot?
I did last year. I was doing a lot of readings here and in LA and San Francisco.
You said you're going in February.
I'm going in February. It's Punk Hostage Press's 12-year anniversary. So they're having a reading and a party, and I'm going to read from Love and Cigarettes.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about that. I don't have a lot of readings lined up right now.
Okay.
I'm just kind of focusing on writing a lot.
Yeah, well, sure. You got a lot to put out there.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like I work 50 hours a week.
Yeah, it's a long week.
And then I'm writing.
And we're not kids anymore.
We're not kids. And so like to be able to go to readings and stuff, I don't really have a chance to get to many readings.
No, it's hard. I mean, I see like some people go to so many readings, but I get up, I get up between 4:30 and 5:30. So I find it hard.
Right.
Like by nighttime, I'm like,
oh yeah.
I gotta push myself to do it.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm invited to read, it'll give me more incentive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to do readings.
I love it. Yeah.
It's really fun. Yeah.
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 As somebody who was on the back of the stage, behind a drum set all my life, to be the one in front of a microphone is really.
It must be nice.
It's exhilarating.
Yeah, I bet. I'm seen.
Yeah, I'm seen, and it's me. It's my inspiration.
Right.
Because usually in bands, the drummer's playing what the the guitarist or somebody else wrote the song, and you're
Right.
playing what their vision is.
Right.
You know, so it's nice to
But
have
you
your own
keep it
vision.
all together.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually read one. Do you mind if I read one?
Please do.
Okay. This one's called Thoughts About Life. She slammed the door so hard it splintered wood. At least she didn't take out her anger on her children, she thought. Lord knows they test her boundary. Kids just do that. And she has more than a few. Left by herself to raise them because their father couldn't see being a parent through. Felt flight was better than fright. Either didn't care or understand the damage he created. She made herself a dry gin martini with 3 green olives on a pick and sat down to space out, mindlessly scrolling through, finding nothing that would save her day. That fell apart when she got up in the morning and took the step out of her room. Now the sun was leaving its place high above and no longer warming her day. She sat on the couch, clutching her favorite glass. The sting of the ice-cold, shaken, not stirred cocktail didn't change a thing. She still had bills overdue, not enough energy left to give the love needed to a tribe of 5. Living in chaos most of the time, with no prospect of having someone that could listen to her thoughts about life, wishing just to only be understood. So a lot of times there's a little bit of my personal life in something. My mother would, when she was angry, and there were 7 kids.
Oh my God.
So I didn't set out to write about anything that had to do with my mother. But that image always struck with me. When she got angry, she would slam the door, and sometimes it would to the basement, and sometimes it would like break the frame or something.
Oh my God, she'd really slam it hard. Oh my God.
Right, and she did like a martini at the end of her day.
Oh my God.
So, but it's not technically about my mother, but some of those things in there about kind of like from that memory.
I think it's natural.
Yeah.
To put that kind of stuff in.
Right.
Yeah.
I mostly like to tell stories about empathetic stories. And it could be about people with drug addictions or mental illness or, elderly or, people from people that are on the outside.
Yeah.
And some of it might be related to feelings I have, but not, it's not me, but parts of me.
Right.
And I identify with that too.
Yeah. I like the stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I do mostly story poems. I'm not... I never studied poetry, and this is a new thing, and so I don't worry about form. It's mostly about storytelling for me.
Yeah, I don't...
Which is why it matches good with music.
Yes, yeah. I'm not an academic poet.
No.
Yeah, sometimes I play with form, but that's not what drives me.
And it's funny because I'm doing this, and I'm interviewing mostly poets and writers.
Yeah.
And I feel sometimes kind of... I don't know what's the right word. Not out of place, but I'm just trying to get to know my, guests. But sometimes I feel kind of in awe because I know that the people I'm interviewing have been doing this for a really long time.
Sometimes,
and really do know, and they are coming from academic plays.
I get that. I'm in a poetry writing group, a daily poetry write group. And
so why do you do that? Because you write a lot.
Oh, I do that just to have be a part of a community.
I see.
And also,
is this something online or in person?
It's online. Okay. So there's people from all over, and it's like working a muscle. It's like, and sometimes because it's every day you're writing a poem to a certain prompt,
right? And
sometimes your poem is crap,
right? But
sometimes it's not. It's like this muscle that's getting built, and so it's like you exercise. So it's kind of like an exercise. It's like kind of like exercising. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you find it?
I wake up at 3 in the morning.
Do you really?
I wake up at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
To get up and do things.
I just wake up. It started about.
I always
a year
do too,
ago.
but I don't get up and do things. I suffer.
It started about a year ago.
Oh.
And I started waking up, and now I was all my life a sleeper.
Right.
Just like
I never had trouble sleeping when I was young.
14, I loved sleeping. I used to sleep during band practice. Wow. People would have band practice in the houses that I lived in, and I'm just like, I'm going to go to sleep. I don't care. I would fall asleep on acid. I'm a sleeper.
Wow.
And about a year ago, it changed. Right. And, and I just was like, well, this is terrific. It's time to write. And And I feel like, you know, I spent close to 20 years working on Ray by Ray, and
Oh, wow.
a long time.
Is that
And-
because it was on and off, like you didn't have like a blocks of time that you could just sit down and do it, or is it like a research part of it? Or?
The research part was
Right.
extensive. I went to all the like film archives and
Oh,
libraries, and then
okay.
and I had some help interviewing people, and we interviewed about 50 people.
Oh, okay. So
And so then it was just, it just took a long time. And I always was working during that time.
where is it available?
Oh, you can get it Barnes and Noble,
Okay, great. It's in Barnes and Noble.
or Amazon,
Nice.
or through Three Rooms Press.
Okay.
Ray by Ray.
Did you do a book tour when you came?
You know, it came out when the pandemic hit. So I had a book tour planned, but it didn't happen. So we did a lot of things on Zoom.
Wow.
And some of those things you can see online.
And I guess it's too late to do a book tour.
You know, yeah. I mean, I just did a mini book tour for Backseat Baby, because Backseat Baby also came out during
Okay.
the pandemic.
Right.
So I was in LA with Christy and another writer, Michelle McNudo.
Do you ever read excerpts from it?
From Ray by Ray?
Yeah.
I do.
You want to read one? No? You have something like you can pull from there?
Really fast. Oh gosh.
I mean, if I'm putting you on the spot, it's fine.
No, you're not. I just don't know if I can find it really, really fast.
Did you do any public? So I guess because of the pandemic, you never got a chance to do public reading from that, or you know,
No, not really.
or
which
have a
was
book
kind of
release
a-
party, or
No, I didn't get
That's
to
a
have it.
shame.
It was a
because you put
drag.
so much.
Yeah,
It's not. I think you should do something with it.
it's.
I don't think it's too late. You put so much of your life into it.
Well, I feel like right now we're talking about it.
Right,
and
that's
kinda
true.
Celebrating it,
Right.
and like, I went and.
Why don't you have a showing of like one of your favorite movies of his, and talk about the book and read from it? Or,
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Do you think young people know Rebel Without a Cause? 'Cause
Yes.
yeah.
You know what's really interesting is like going to.
I mean, like people. I mean, actually, somebody I work with, she's in her 20s and she knew it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they know it. When I go, I introduced a couple of his films at Nighthawk Cinema in the last year, and there were young people there.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
and that
You mean
always
you went?
introduced my father's film. I introduced In a Lonely Place, and I introduced Johnny Guitar.
Okay.
2 separate occasions.
Right.
You know,
And I guess you're able to then mention the book.
Oh yeah, totally. I
Okay.
got to mention
I feel like it
the
needs
book.
to get out there.
Yeah, no, I think that the thing about Ray by Ray is that it's always going to be out. It's always
Right.
going to be available,
Right.
and it's kind of timeless.
Are there a lot of books about him?
There are quite
Yeah,
a few.
okay.
Yeah, but this one's not a straight biography.
Right.
Mine's not a straight biography.
Right.
Mine is my story in there too,
Sure.
and my mom's and the family.
Right.
And stuff. Yeah, there's always this one part that I like to read, but I'm not sure where it is. So
Okay.
I don't know. I can read a poem.
Yeah, read a poem.
Okay, I'll read a poem. But so I'll read a poem that's going to be in my forthcoming collection of poetry called Go 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 Girl,
Okay.
which is coming out on Poison Fang Books sometime by June.
So these are all fairly new, right? Like,
Yes.
Yeah. So, but you were published before that in other anthologies and like when did you first get published?
I first got published in I think the early 90s.
Okay.
I was writing short stories
Right.
and got them published in like
Sure.
small press kind of things. Like there was a magazine out of San Francisco called Clutch.
Were you living in San Francisco?
No,
at the time?
no. I just saw
Right.
them and
Got
thought
it. Yeah.
I was a good match.
All right.
I feel like I do well on the West Coast.
Okay.
So this is a short one.
All right.
Do you want a short one or a longer one?
Well, you can read that one. We have time for probably another one after that.
Okay, so this is going to be in Go, 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 Girl. Rhythms on your dance beat. I got me on the dance floor, stepping to the song beat, beating on your door. Let me in, let me in. I gotta feel your heat, let me in, let me in. Glue my body to your dance beat, beating rhythms on your door. Let me in, let me in. Pulse me, baby, backward, forward on the floor. I got you moving, sound beat, rhythms on the door.
Love it. You definitely have a rhythm to your poetry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I read another one?
Of course.
Okay. All right. So, Go, 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 Girl. I write poems based on Jesse's illustrations of women.
Huh.
And
he draws. He does an illustration first, and then you write something based on that.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is upon her, a ponder. I touch the roll, my stomach aches. Ponder my body born to a mother and father strung out. I cry at night, I cry at day. I cry, but no one comes my way. Father goes, mother stays. I touch the roll, my stomach aches. I eat a horse, I swallow pills, I guzzle liquid intoxicants. I eat a cake, I eat a mountain. I touch the roll, my stomach aches. I tumble down, I'm bruised up, curled up, shot up. Ponder my body born. I touch the roll, my stomach aches. I cry at night, I cry at day. I cry, but no one comes my way. I am a pill, I am a horse, I am a mountain, a cake, a bottle, a mistake. I touch the roll, my stomach aches. Rid me of this body born, I touch the roll, my stomach aches. I am a tear, I am mother's fear, I am my father's runaway. I eat a cake, I eat a mountain, I eat the hillside. I am the guzzle, the horse, the moon over mountain, the hillside sliding. I touch the roll, my stomach aches.
Wow. That's all from just an illustration?
Yeah.
You don't have the illustration here, do you?
No, I wish I did. You have to wait for Go, 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 Go to come out.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
What is, Jesse's an illustrator?
He's a painter.
Painter.
He's a fine artist.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's his thing, like a full-time thing, or?
Oh, he is an art handler by day.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, he paints. He's pretty darn prolific.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does he have any gallery shows coming?
He doesn't have any coming up right now, but he's had galleries like in Chelsea and stuff.
Nice.
And shows, and he sells
What's
his work.
What's his style?
Oh gosh. Figurative, landscape, gothic. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
How long you been married?
We've been together 34 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were working at Dojo's restaurant on St. Mark's
Dojo's,
Place.
get outta here.
Yeah. And that's where we met.
My wife and I used to love that. You probably waited
We
on us.
probably did.
We went there. Everybody went there all the time.
Everybody.
Because it was really good and it was really inexpensive.
Exactly.
And it was in a great location too.
Exactly.
And we're always like going around that part of town.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't wait to tell my wife.
Yeah.
We were very disappointed when it disappeared.
Yeah.
There was like a veggie burger with like a
soy burger dinner.
Yeah.
With the carrot tahini sauce.
Yes, that's it.
$3.25.
It was really good.
Yeah.
And we were both vegetarian back then. I'm not full-time vegetarian. She still is. And that was great for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so funny. It's, now that I'm out and doing this, I can't help but think all these people that I'm meeting now, I must have passed them by.
Right.
I must have passed them by in the street, or I must have seen them in a club, or must have maybe even been on bills with them. But it's so long ago for me. Like the 80s and 90s, I was out performing a lot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think those of us who stayed here, we all must have come in contact with each other.
And I can't help but think that I'm meeting people that did, but some of the people I meet really in the scene. Like, I loved performing, I loved going out, but I'm sort of a homebody too. Okay. Like I'm cool about making a dinner and just watching a movie. Yeah. Yeah. And so like some people they go out all the time, even at our age. I see people, they're always out. Yeah. And I'm like, I do like that. but I also like and I was married, and we like to just hang out.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to
and
just
I like
hang
small little
out.
gatherings with friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
But I still, I can't, I just got to think that all these people that I'm meeting now that have been here and were out and performing or going to galleries or waitressing at dojos, it's weird. It's like now I'm meeting them, but I must have seen them, and you probably waited on us because we went there a lot.
Oh, yeah, I probably did. Yeah.
Cool. So we're towards the end of the show. What have we not touched upon that you want the listeners to know about you, your art?
Well,
so it's a new year. You're going to be on the West Coast.
I'm going to be on the West Coast.
What's coming up? Anything planned here that people can come see?
I don't have anything
you
planned
said that.
here.
Yeah. Right.
I think Puma and I are supposed to read in May.
Right.
But I've just been
concentrating on the actual writing. Right.
I think, I always feel like my writing is my attempt to have a personal conversation with someone.
I kind of feel like that myself, to some degree.
Yeah. It's just the way I communicate.
Mm-hmm. I think when I started writing, again, like I said, it's kind of a late in life thing. It was after I wasn't drumming anymore, and I felt isolated a lot more than I did when I was younger. It was less, how people spread out, or some people passed away or just moved on. And, I was working a lot of hours because I was in the food business. For a while, I had a bakery, and I worked from 5, 6 in the morning until nighttime.
Wow.
And 7 days a week practically.
Right.
So then I was pretty exhausted, and I wasn't doing anything creatively. So so it was sort of a way to reach out, and the good thing is now I'm taking all that and I'm writing new stuff, obviously, but I'm connecting with people.
Right.
It got me. So the writing was kind of like about isolation, and especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting to meet and talk to cool people like you, and I'm getting to hear people and see people perform. And
that's
really
what's
cool.
nice about going and doing readings. It's
right.
like you're alone, you're private, you're having these conversations with yourself basically, and then you go out and you read the poems and you connect.
Right.
And you may not talk about the poems you hear,
right.
but you're connecting with other people who are on this sort of same wavelength as you are, and that's all. It's just really cool,
I have to ask you something I've never asked any other guest or any other poet, and there's something that I want to get better at, is how to become a better listener. So you're sitting and you're hearing somebody's poetry. Well, first of all, I was never diagnosed with this, but I'm pretty sure I have pretty bad ADHD.
Okay.
But how do you absorb people's words as they're reading it? It's not the same as looking at it on a piece of paper. How do you is it okay? You're just gonna get the feeling of it, or how do you? I don't know. Is that a dumb question?
No, it's not a dumb question at all. It's kind of how do you get your mind to be quiet?
Mm-hmm.
For the period of time you're listening to the poet read,
right.
and I think that's that's a challenge,
right?
And I think,
and it feels like it goes by fast.
It goes by really fast, But I don't know, if the poet grabs me within the first few words,
right.
then I'm
right.
stuck there. Just like if you go see a band, and that first song and the first few chords, it just strikes something in you, and you got to go close up to the stage, and you got to be a part of it.
Right.
It's the same thing.
See, with music, it's not like the words weren't important, but to me, it was always the feeling.
Well, that's true with the poem too.
True. Right.
Isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Doesn't there have to be some sort of? I mean, there doesn't have to be some sort of feeling. Sometimes
right.
Things are very analytical,
right.
and you can get into that whole mindscape too.
Right.
But for me personally, I like the emotional charge.
Me too.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
that's the part of it that I like.
So I don't know. Like sometimes I'll close my eyes.
I do that too.
Yeah.
So when I'm interviewing people when they read, I sometimes close my eyes to see if I could pick it up better.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been a great guest.
Thank you.
And really enjoyed talking with you. And I have a lot to catch up on. There's a lot to read there. I'm going to have to look into your writing and your books. And can people find you online to find out more about your art? And
yeah, you can. I don't have a website or anything, but you can Google me, Nicca Ray.
All right.
And I'm sort of
no
there.
social media.
I have Facebook and I'm on Instagram.
So Instagram's good.
Yeah, Instagram is good. I
have to follow you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Do you post any of your poetry on Instagram?
I do. I post my poetry. I post my bookmarks.
Perfect. Okay. And so
know.
what's your Instagram?
I think it's just Nicca Ray.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not hard.
No, it's a private account, so just maybe send me a message.
Nicca, Nicca, just for the people that want to follow up on it.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to play the theme song. So you've been listening to Storytelling on Orchard Street. I'm your host, Pete Salamita, and we're in the broadcast studios of P&T Knitwear Bookstore. I'm so happy to have the honor and pleasure to interview Nicca Ray, and I look forward to knowing more about you in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for tuning in, listening, watching, and however you're absorbing this podcast. And thank you.